Erin, and hi, everyone. It is amazing to share space with you today, even virtual space, as we all enter from different lands and territories, but so excited to just join in this conversation with our team and our incredible partners. So, just to give you a little bit of background on the connective work that the Equality Fund has been doing, this has certainly been a priority for our organization since we first launched. It is an area of movement building that we've consistently heard we need to focus on and support because it's so largely underfunded, sorry. We know that there's money that is increasingly moving towards flexible grants to help organizations do their work, but some of the connective tissue that we help to create, it really reflects our specific location amongst national, regional, and thematic women's funds, amongst governments, grassroots activists, individual and institutional funders. The Equality Fund is really uniquely situated to help fill this gap. So we carry out this work by supporting the spaces where we know partners wish to get together, to talk in person, to align strategy, to share as peers. So this looks like convenings such as the Black Feminist Fund Global Convening. It also looks like supporting travel to facilitate grantee partners to participate at Women Deliver and other critical spaces. And it's really important for us to ensure that the support that we're providing to partners is beyond financial resources. We want to ensure that the work really creates space for folks to network, not only virtually as we're doing today, but also to get together in person. You know, we learned through COVID and beyond that nothing really replaces that in-person connection. So we really work to facilitate that as much as we possibly can and have seen incredible stories come from our partners as a result of those experiences. So today I am happy to bring up to the mic Teresa. And Teresa's from the International Indigenous Women's Forum. And I'm just looking across our screen to see if we also have one of our partners. We had invited Immaculata, who's based in rural Guyana, but
She did let me
unfortunately,
know that she would have some internet issues
technical, yes,
potentially. So we do have our colleague Megan here who's going to speak to the work that Immaculata
amazing.
was going to
Ah,
talk
okay, great.
about. So she is here, so we'll bring her up. And then if I'll keep my eye out, if we happen to see her come on, then I'll let everyone know.
Wonderful.
Thank
Thank
you.
you, Erin. And welcome, Megan. It's so interesting just to speak to that because Immaculata, like many of our other grantee partners, work in a rural part of the country where, access to technology is very strained. So, even with well-intended moments like this to hold conversation, those challenges are real and present, and we really aim for our work to also help bridge those digital divides as well. But I'm excited. We have Teresa, we have Megan today, and we're really just going to chat around some of the incredible work that has been taking place as a result of our connection at Equality Fund. So I would like to start with you, Teresa, if we can. And I know that Megan will share more intimately about the work within the organization, but we would love to get to know a little bit more about you. What brings you to this work? And can you tell those here a little bit about the organization that you lead?
Mm. Thank you so much, Tamara, and thank you for all the equality. I want to continue in Spanish. Mm, sorry. Ya. Primero, pues saludarles desde la energía del calendario maya. Me robo unos segundos para decirles que el día 18, la semana pasada, hemos iniciado un nuevo calendario, un nuevo ciclo según el calendario maya. Es el nuevo año para nosotros. Y este nuevo calendario va a regir por 365 días. Entonces, con esa energía del día de hoy, que es la energía de los caminos, las saludo a cada una y les deseo pues caminos anchos y abiertos para todos. ¿Qué me ha movido para llegar hasta aquí? Debo de reconocer que soy una de las sobrevivientes del conflicto armado en Guatemala. Vengo de una familia de comunidad del área rural y que por las razones del conflicto pues resulté en la capital. Sin embargo, esa esencia de la vida de mi comunidad ha quedado sembrada en mí y así que la lucha por lo colectivo, por los derechos, ha estado siempre presente y eso es lo que me ha traído al trabajo con las mujeres indígenas como un compromiso de reciprocidad. ¿Qué hacemos en FIMI? Bueno, FIMI, para quienes no conocen, es un mecanismo global de mujeres indígenas organizado, liderado por mujeres indígenas para las mujeres indígenas en las 7 regiones del mundo reconocidas por las Naciones Unidas. Y nosotras nos constituimos como en ese espacio de concertación global, donde las distintas voces de las mujeres indígenas nos encontramos para tener una sola voz unificada ante los procesos de incidencia, pero también para formarnos, para movilizar esos fondos, esos recursos financieros que nos pertenecen y para caminar juntas, hacer presencia juntas, porque las mismas situaciones difíciles nos atraviesan, pero también tenemos muchos valores y conocimientos que trasladar al mundo. Pues a eso nos dedicamos en FIMIA. En las siguientes intervenciones podré compartir un poco más. Gracias.
Oh, that's beautiful. Thank you, and Happy New Year to you.
Thank you.
It's so wonderful to just get an introduction to how this experience is so grounded in your family and community and yourself, and what brings you to the work at FEME. So we're excited to keep talking about that with you. But before we do, I just wanted to also introduce my wonderful colleague, Megan, who sits with our policy and strategic partnership team, who has been leading some incredible work with our grantee partners. So, Megan, would you like to just introduce yourself and share a little bit about your work at our team, on our broader team at EF with our partners? And I'll have some more specific questions for you.
Yes, of course. Thanks everyone for having me. My name is Megan. I work as the policy advisor on the PSP team, and I've had the great pleasure and honor of leading our anti-rights cohort, policy cohort. I can tell you a little bit about it. How about I start with just like the purpose, the origin story, and a little bit of who was part of that cohort. So, as you know, the anti-rights movement, it's well-financed, it's well-coordinated coalition of governments and non-state actors who have been working for decades to erode liberal democracies and essentially reverse progress on women's rights and gender justice. So in response to the growing anti-rights movement, we recognize here at EF that an equally well-connected and collective counter-strategies are required. So the policy and strategic partnerships, as well as global programs and our SII teams, we co-designed an interregional cross-stream pilot that focused on the rollback of rights and anti-gender movement. So the purpose was to create a safe space for peer-led for our partners to engage in exchange of strategies across geographies, issues, and languages. So we had about 12 to 13 grantee partners that came from both Stream 1, which is our Catalyze and Direct grant making stream, and Activate, which is our peer fund stream. And these partners were selected based on a wide range of criteria, including their geography, the specific issues, their experience in the anti-rights movement. So we had some grantee partners that for them, this was a very new experience. It was something that was emerging in their communities. And then for other grantee partners that participated, this was an experience that they've been dealing with for quite some time. And so they were considered our more the veterans, if you will, within the cohort. But bringing people, organizations that had such different perspectives and experience really created a rich environment for different types of conversations to take place, for learning to take place. So I think I'll stop there in terms of the purpose and who participated. And I think Tamari said there'll be more questions.
Yes. Thank you, Megan. Wonderful to just share that overview of how we are aligning and working with and partnering with folks who are really concentrating their work on addressing this anti-rights backlash that we see as very real and present across regions. So Teresa, that brings me back to you. Let's share a little bit about FEMI's work in this context. Could you share a little bit with us about how FEMI is operating in today's political climate? What are your priorities and how are you and your team responding?
Ya, gracias por la pregunta. Bueno, comentarles que FIMI cumplió el año pasado 25 años, porque es importante mencionarlo, porque creo que estos años nos han enseñado a navegar institucionalmente en medio de las diferentes crisis. No es lo mismo estar iniciando o un proceso que ya tener un proceso organizativo de muchos años y eso nos ayuda a hacerle frente a la crisis actual. También quiero poner sobre la mesa que lamentablemente los pueblos indígenas, las mujeres indígenas, estamos casi que permanentemente atravesando diferentes tipos de crisis y salimos de una, viene otra crisis, o sea, ha sido así la historia dura de nuestros pueblos, pero si vamos por el lado positivo, y es la forma que nosotras estamos ahora sobrellevando y haciéndole frente a la situación, es con resiliencia. Esto es importante, saber resistir, saber reaccionar en tiempos de crisis. Entonces, eso es lo que la base de cómo estamos trabajando. Y entonces nos estamos esforzando por fortalecernos organizativamente, tanto dentro de FIMI, estamos revisando cómo nos vamos a fortalecer, cómo sistematizamos las buenas prácticas, eh, cómo vamos dándole más fuerza, más empuje a las cosas buenas que hacemos, a las cosas buenas que pasamos, porque la crisis política global nos invade tanto que a veces nos quedamos solo hablando de lo negativo, del impacto y olvidamos todo lo bueno, todos los esfuerzos que hacemos. Entonces estamos también en esa dinámica de reconocer y de sistematizar. em, Estamos poniendo mucha atención en seguir organizándonos con las distintas redes. FIMI tiene un rol articulador, entonces nosotras tenemos un trabajo fuerte, cercano con las redes regionales de mujeres indígenas en África, en Asia, en América Latina, el norte, Pacífico, un poco menos en el Ártico. Y justo ahora el otro mes estaremos en la sesión de CSW, aprovechando el contexto de poder reunirnos con las distintas redes regionales para revisar nuestras estrategias, para reforzar nuestro trabajo colectivo, reforzar las alianzas frente a toda esta crisis política que la encontramos en nivel global, pero también tiene su impacto en el día a día de la vida las mujeres indígenas, los jóvenes, las niñas. Em, no podemos pensar la crisis política como algo em, diferente o distante a la crisis climática. O sea, todo va entrelazado, la violencia, la criminalización. Entonces, nosotras necesitamos fortalecer nuestras estrategias. Esa es la forma en que estamos trabajando. Hemos tenido una baja de financiamiento, al igual que muchas otras organizaciones, redes, y esto impacta a nivel comunitario. Sin embargo, por muchos años los pueblos indígenas hemos llevado nuestras luchas sin financiamiento, entonces no nos estamos deteniendo, sí seguimos, pero por supuesto que estamos replanteando cómo vamos a hacer para captar esos recursos, ese financiamiento, ese dinero que está yéndose a otros enfoques y no necesariamente a los derechos humanos. Y sí creemos que podemos establecer alianzas para poder atraer de nuevo el financiamiento que nos corresponde. Siempre decimos que el financiamiento que necesitamos es el que nos corresponde. De esa manera hemos venido navegando en esta situación, tomando precauciones. Por ejemplo, nosotras tenemos muchas actividades internacionales, tomamos precauciones, establecemos rutas, formas de estar comunicadas para cuidarnos entre todas. Estamos también haciendo paradas internas para el autocuidado, la sanación. Es importantísimo mencionarlo en estos momentos y es algo que desde FIMI hemos venido haciendo ya desde hace algunos años y hoy reafirmamos que cobra mucho sentido el seguir trabajando en nuestro autocuidado, sanación de manera colectiva. La solidaridad es algo también muy relevante, el conversar entre nosotras y bueno, eso es lo que hemos venido haciendo, querida Tamara, para navegar en esta realidad el que estamos enfrentando. Gracias.
Wow. Wow, you shared so much. Excuse me. Excuse me, all. I am just like, you can't see it in the screen, but my heart is just getting warmer and warmer just listening to you, Teresa, as you know, I hear about FEMI's work connecting with Indigenous groups across like continents, across regions and geographies, and just the incredible space that you're providing to, you know, align shared experiences. And as you talked about the opportunity to center care, you know, care for yourself and care for your colleagues and care for your community is so critical because I think we've all seen in our personal and professional lives, you know, if we're not operating from a space of care, especially for ourselves in this moment, then what do we have, right? What do we have to keep us sustained? So it's just so wonderful to hear how FEMI's work is not only addressing so many important issues, but creating these spaces for Indigenous activists to come together and really carve out strategy and, you know, just reflecting on what you shared, Teresa. I'm really excited for you to tell us a little bit more about your role in organizing the first global summit of Indigenous women at the 30th COP Conference of Parties, which we know is an annual summit on global climate action. And we were able to provide some support for that from the Equality Fund. towards this summit, and proud to do so. And really, when we're talking about this type of support we'd like to continue to offer you, it really comes through resources that are rooted in this connective work. So I would love if you could share a little bit more about your experience organizing this incredible space. What were some of the outcomes, and what did it mean for movement leaders who were sharing that space with you? Thank you.
Thank you, Tamara. Sí, como les decía al inicio, FIMI tiene en su misión esta tarea de juntar las distintas voces, y no es lo mismo ir una organización comunitaria solita en estos espacios globales que ir las distintas voces de las regiones. Hemos venido siguiendo ya desde hace algunos años el- todo lo que corresponde a la agenda climática. Y es evidente que las mujeres indígenas, las juventudes, no somos protagonistas de las decisiones. Estamos invisibilizadas en estos procesos. Y si bien nuestros pueblos han tenido una voz perseverante, no siempre nuestros hermanos varones tienen todo el entendimiento del impacto específico en la vida de las mujeres. Entonces, a eso se debe que nosotras en este año que sucedió acá en Brasil, en esta región, decidimos juntar nuestras voces en una cumbre global de mujeres y de jóvenes indígenas de las distintas regiones, traer todas estas propuestas, no solo las problemáticas, sino que también traer las propuestas, los conocimientos, las buenas prácticas, qué estamos haciendo en las comunidades. Entonces hemos organizado esta cumbre que tuvo también pre-reuniones o preconferencias en las distintas regiones, de manera que logremos hacer como esa cadena desde lo local hasta lo global y luego lo global hasta lo local. Eso es como el esfuerzo que siempre tratamos de hacer y no saltarnos de estos espacios tan importantes. Em, ¿Qué hemos logrado? El primer objetivo que nos propusimos es ser visibles y que nuestra voz se escuchara. Y lo logramos, estuvimos presentes, tuvimos bastante cobertura en las redes, tuvimos a expertos, expertas de distintos organismos en la cumbre que se llevaron todas esas voces, esos planteamientos en los distintos espacios de negociación, que eso era uno de los objetivos que teníamos. Tenemos una declaración que fue resultado de esta cumbre, una declaración que recoge justamente la problemática, pero también recoge esos planteamientos, esas propuestas. Otro objetivo que teníamos era el discutir y vincular el contenido de la Recomendación General número 39 del Comité de la CEDAW, que reconoce los derechos colectivos de las mujeres indígenas. También lo logramos conectar durante este evento y en los distintos eventos que sucedieron alrededor de la COP. Em, Me parece que algo también relevante que quiero compartirles es la convergencia que tuvimos de mujeres de las distintas regiones, de las juventudes y personas con discapacidad. No siempre logramos visibilizar estas situaciones o condiciones más específicas dentro de los pueblos, y entonces esto fue también muy, muy relevante. Estuvieron compañeras que venían desde lo local, que tuvieron un espacio para poder participar, poder traer sus planteamientos. Y puedo decir que fue una cumbre bastante exitosa, muy importante. Una de las lecciones o de los retos que tenemos es cómo nosotras logramos mantener el seguimiento a todas estas negociaciones. Como ustedes saben, la COP o las cumbres ya son el resultado final de etapas, de varias etapas. Y muchas veces, por desconocimiento de los procesos, llegamos solo a la última parte en donde la incidencia ya no es tan efectiva. En- entonces, entre los retos identificados y de seguimientos identificados en la cumbre es el poder dar seguimiento a los distintos momentos de negociación que suceden durante el año. También otro reto es el proceso de formación para el fortalecimiento de nuestros conocimientos, de nuestras capacidades, tanto de jóvenes, de mujeres, etcétera, que puedan ir formándose en este campo. Y el tercer elemento es el acceso al financiamiento. Esto fue un tema que estuvo muy presente en todas las discusiones de la cumbre y es cómo vamos a garantizar un mayor acceso del financiamiento flexible, directo, sin intermediarios, que puedan ser las mujeres indígenas las que lo administren, lo implementen y lo inviertan en las agendas propias que llevamos, las prioridades. Esto fue algo que fue resaltado constantemente por las compañeras. Y para finalizar, sí decirles que una de las conclusiones principales y que vamos a seguir diciéndolo es que la crisis climática es una crisis de derechos, es una violencia que está, una violencia en múltiples dimensiones y que su solución exige integrar de manera obligatoria, de manera efectiva, las voces, los conocimientos, prioridades de las mujeres indígenas en toda la arquitectura global del clima. Y que tenemos las capacidades para hacerlo, somos las guardianas, las que estamos en los territorios y no puede ser que estemos invisibles en estos procesos y debe de ser, de hacerse desde una visión de la justicia climática interseccional por los impactos diferenciados que tienen en nuestras vidas. Eso es lo que puedo resumir de la cumbre y de todo ese proceso que es bastante amplio, pero creo que he trasladado lo más relevante.
You have conveyed so many facts for us. So incredible to hear about this, Teresa. I think what sticks out for me is that it was not just about convening and getting together in person for one moment, which in itself is great, but that you led so much lead up work with partners on ensuring that they had the opportunity to feed into the documents, to make political statements, to share a unified voice and actually get to understand their role and how they can participate effectively in these spaces that often shut them out. And I just love how you articulated this important role for you as a connector yourself, in ensuring that the voices of the movement are what's centered here. And I love that you gave us that reminder of who's doing this work, who is on the ground, who is really leading this, and how do we help ensure through our support to you that you continue to be the voice at the forefront. So thank you so much for that. Meghan, I want to bring you back in to the conversation with us because you have been leading some wonderful work for the Equality Fund in the virtual setting. Teresa's been amazing in bringing some folks together in person, but also we know we can't do that all the time. And the virtual setting is so important as we're looking at tackling this anti-rights movement that has been spreading globally. So I would love if you could share with us just a little more on this experience of having this cohort together as one of our, core offerings over the past year. What's come of that space? What did partners have to say? And what are you looking forward to as next steps?
Yes, so it's definitely been an exciting time for the group. I think it really stretched EF in terms of, in a good way, in terms of what's possible and how we can meaningfully show up for our grantee partners. That was at the core of everything that we did to make sure that it was impactful, even beginning with the methodology in terms of how we went about designing the cohort. We ensured that it was participatory, which meant that partners validated the concept and selected the eventual accompaniment that I will talk about a little bit later. We were responsive because we, as EF colleagues, we went in with one idea of what the cohort might be looking for based on feedback prior to the design session. But realizing that we actually had to pivot because while what we suggested was useful, it didn't really speak to the absolute need of the group in that moment, given the times that we are in. So again, that actually led to a different, the accompaniment the digital security accompaniment that we settled on was not the original plan, but we wanted to be responsive and we were, so that became the accompaniment. And then also I would say that the approach we took was very evidence-based. This group served as a real-time source of partner insights and informed EF's analysis and strategy in many ways in terms of how we interacted with the grantee partners in terms of agreements and funding and how we were and it allowed us to show up better for them. I would say some of the feedback that we got throughout the cohort, because it was designed into 2 phases. The first phase was 6 months of share back from them. So all 6 continents 6 regions that we operate in were represented. So each month, 2 grantee partners from one region would just share a bit about their context, whether at the national or regional level. And what was really interesting was that there was some commonalities across the regions, specifically the use of rights-based language, example, families' values, nation, to portray feminist and LGBTQIA communities as threats and position themselves as defenders of women's rights, children, parental rights, or religious freedom. So there was that twisting of terminologies to kind of suit a more nefarious narrative. Rejecting advancements in rights as cultural threats or Western impositions. So the idea of us versus them, the them being anything related to Western ideology, which was linked to feminism and gender rights. Restrictive legislation in terms of restricting access to reproductive health care and criminalization of abortion, anti-LGBTQI legislation, including bans on same-sex relationships, gender-affirming care and public expression, restrictions in general on civil society organizations through burdensome registration requirements and foreign funding restrictions, and certainly violence and intimidation through surveillance of activists and community members, physical attacks, online harassment, doxing, arbitrary arrests, red tagging, and numerous other tactics that were employed. So as I said earlier, what this space created was an opportunity to share information, and there became the realization that these organizations were not experiencing an isolated event or scenario, that in fact, in some cases, it did feel very much like a copy and paste of a playbook across the various regions. So one example we had, because we went alphabetically, we had our grantee partners in the African region present first. By the time we got to our Eastern European and Middle Eastern grantee partners, they were pretty much saying the same thing, and they actually identified that there was a lot of similarity in the tactics employed. by the anti-rights movement. And so it kind of, while sad, obviously, it kind of creates a sense of community, that I'm not alone. The walls, the silos kind of started to disappear a bit, which again was contributed to the movement building. That is the entire outcome and purpose of this particular cohort, in addition to partner empowerment in terms of providing a platform for partners to amplify their voices in international spaces such as CSW. And then I would say another impact would be the EF learning in terms of informing future initiatives. So based on what we learned over the course of the last year and some, we hope to use that in other cohorts that we have in the pipeline, such as the climate justice cohort that we hope to have soon, a localization cohort with our Caribbean grantee partners, which is currently in the works. Just using the lessons from peer learning and how to meaningfully apply those lessons is something that I think EF can be pretty proud of. In terms of what's next, as I said, the accompaniment offering that actually became the choice amongst the cohort was feminist digital security and holistic protection. That is actually currently underway. I'm proud to say that about 42 grantee partners, as in 42 individual organizations, signed up for that, really signaling the need for such an accompaniment. And I think EF is uniquely positioned to bring this wide variety of grantee partners together to really strengthen their respective capacities in this area, which again will only go towards movement building and building resilience among our grantee partners. I think everyone's pretty excited about it, myself included. So I think I will leave that here for now. Thanks, Tamara.
Now that's amazing. Thank you so much, Meghan, for sharing about this work. And it's so wonderful to hear how this approach connects to what Teresa shared about her work on the ground and what partners are asking us for in this particular moment. And it really, draws examples for folks to learn in the room about how much our accompaniment strategies our intention is to be responsive to what movements are sharing with us, what the needs are. Sometimes that's advocacy, amplification. Sometimes that's direct funding. And sometimes it's opportunities like this where we can help strengthen capacity and certainly do this in a way that helps to encourage these like ongoing movement building approaches. So really grateful for you to share with us about that work, and Teresa yourself as well. I know we certainly want to leave space for the room to ask questions, but I really wanted to bring Erin back into the chat now to talk about what this means and what the opportunities are for individual donors. Erin, we have heard from our partner. We've heard from Meghan in our policy and strategic partnership team. Can you tell us a little bit about where individual philanthropists and donors can come into this conversation?
Yeah, thank you so much. I realized that we were running out of time because there's so much good information to share. Information on what's next. I just wanted to let people know we'll be coming in our next e-communication on Friday. So we'll share more about what this means for the Quality Fund's priorities in the year ahead, because I really want to make sure that people in our community feel connected not only to what we've done, but to what we're doing, because this truly isn't possible without our partners. So what you can expect, how you can get more involved. But in terms of philanthropy, we all know the context that we are operating in. The systems, the funding systems that have always felt the most reliable are becoming increasingly unstable. We saw that with USAID. Government priorities are shifting. Institutional funders are under increasing scrutiny, especially in countries where authoritarianism is rising. And, as a result, a lot of our partners, many, if not most, are experiencing huge cuts to funding at a time when the needs are increasing exponentially. And so within this context, individuals have incredible power right now, especially when they're working collectively and especially in a coordinated way. And I say this because we've heard from our partners, and we know from looking at past social movements that this moment requires urgency and it requires endurance, both of those things. We cannot have one without the other. And this is something that individuals are really uniquely positioned to do. Individual philanthropy, it moves first and it moves fast. It is flexible and it is nimble. It has the ability to move so much quicker and without the restrictions that come often with traditional funding. And so we're able to get it out the door to meet the moment that we need in right now. But at the same time, individual donors can commit steadily to a long game. This is, again, something that governments can't do. They're shifting, they're changing. And that means that donors, and I mean this sincerely, regardless of the amount, are able to fund frontline work and to support the infrastructure that will strengthen movements over time. Because we know that this work will take decades. I mean, we're very clear on that. We don't shy away from it. It will take decades. So we need people who are committing right now and who are committing for the long term. So, we've heard from Teresa, and I'm so sorry that to everyone that Immaculata wasn't able to join us. She did let me know that she was going to be in a part of the country where she might not have great connectivity, but these are direct examples of work that our donor community is funding. Supporting global convenings like COP, ensuring that people from across Indigenous movements, for example, are able to connect, that people from across different movements and different geographies are able to discuss what's happening, strategize together, learn together. And so for people who are in this room right now and who are considering how to show up, what they can do, what their place is in this ecosystem, this really is an opportunity. This is the opportunity for individuals to act with both immediacy and intention. Act with both immediacy